Hello, and welcome to our series, Women in E-Mobility Accelerating Diverse Women. I'm Dr. Shelley Francis, co-founder and managing partner at EV Noir. Our work centers on shared, connected electric and autonomous vehicle technology. We focus on two areas of work, e-mobility best practices and e-mobility diversity, equity, and inclusion. So during this series, we'll be talking with and engaging with diverse women who are leaders in electric mobility. We want to find out from them what it's like working in the sector, what their experience has been, and talk to them about emerging trends as well as issues. So today's session is brought to you by Ford, and we're talking with Danielle Cherry Hoover. She's a project manager with EV Noir, and she's leading a number of innovative electric mobility projects. So just to give you a little bit of background about Danielle before we start talking with her, she has a bachelor's degree in mass comm or mass communications from Morgan State University, which is a historically Black college and university. She has 7+ years of transportation mobility industry expertise, and she also couples that with marketing experience. So she has over 15 years of marketing, public relations, and engagement experience. So Danielle, welcome to Women in E-Mobility. We're so glad to have you here this evening.
I'm very happy to join you, Shelley. Thank you.
You are quite welcome. So let's get right into the meat of our conversation. So obviously, I'm super excited to have the opportunity to talk with you this evening. Today, I want to highlight a number of exciting initiatives and projects that you've been leading. But before we get into the heart of that conversation, let's just chat a little bit more about your journey through this space and, talk about how you got to work in electric mobility. You're a graduate of Villanova University, of course, as well as an HBCU alum. And one of our partners, of course, is your alma mater, Morgan State University. And it's one of the few universities, particularly HBCUs, with a transportation studies center that's funded by the Department of Transportation. So just tell us, how did your career path evolve? What's it like working in the transportation sector, specifically electric mobility? Was that always part of your career path? So tell us more
No,
about that.
to be quite frank, no, that did not exist. My first car was not an EV. Many have the pleasure and opportunity to have an EV now. However, my career in transportation indirectly was in my former life working with professional sports. So in professional sports, leaning on that Marcom experience, it working with state departments of transportation. At the time, it was ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation. So working in sports, you have to do events, you have to do, of course, game days, and anything working alongside the city, working with the city Department of Transportation, and then the fire, police, etc. Because a game is a large scale event. Anytime you have a mass of 10,000 people or more coming to one said location, you need to have transportation involved. So indirectly, it was within that background. Directly, it over the past 7+ years, and that's where I'm counting those 7 years plus, is working on comp plans, comprehensive transportation plans, and even in that short amount of time, electrification hasn't been and to date a prevalent factor in those comprehensive transportation plans. So you think of a comp plan, it's all inclusive, yet electrification hasn't been all inclusive in those plans as of yet. So indirectly sports, directly working in comprehensive transportation plans, especially and specifically in the state of Georgia. So various counties such as DeKalb County, it's the third largest county in the state. Stonecrest, let's see, major mobility investment plans, what they call MMIPs. So the widening of lanes, the adding of fleets and commercial lanes, and what they call ART, arterial rapid transit, BRT. It not yet electrification, but in the E-friendly lane.
Okay.
So lessening emissions, lessening congestion on the roads, and not having heavy rail so much.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those comp plans gave me the opportunity to be more EV friendly. And then, of course, having the wonderful pleasure of working with EV Noir, uh, put both feet in the right lane, and basing upon those previous experiences, and of course building upon what we now know as e-mobility today.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's been a short pivot, which many in this space I think probably have experienced. Those who've worked in transportation may have worked in have a longer tenure, but that EV pivot has been fairly recent. So
Mhm.
7 years is not a long time working in the EV space, but with EV Noir not having the opportunity to literally dive into the deep end, and use those skill sets and those other opportunities to say, hey, comp plans, you don't need just scooters, you need a lot of other things. So um, and sky's the limit, literally and figuratively.
Right, right. Well, no, that's a really interesting background because the sports background gave you, the capability and probably the charge to like go into different spaces that may be uncomfortable, but you kind of take the lead as well as you're engaging with like a lot of different individuals from a lot of different backgrounds. You're engaging with probably a very male dominated community in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the space, the people who are leading conversations and making decisions in that space. And then you couple that with kind of traditional transit and mass transit and the beginning stages of decarbonization efforts. It's really a nice lead in or lead up to transitioning over to e-mobility.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yes, yeah. And I think one of the interesting things that I think listeners would really want to know more about was just what's the average day like in Daniel Cherry Hoover's world. You're a project manager, so obviously you are managing a number of different deliverables. You're monitoring and evaluating progress, making adjustments where you need to. So can you tell us about like, maybe some of the projects that you're scoping or that you're managing and what that process is like for you?
Sure, absolutely. My background, just to hit on that really quickly, uh, gave me the opportunity to be built for
Mhm.
this space. You mentioned about being in a male dominated and quite frankly a white male dominated industry. It was
Mhm.
baseball. Major League Baseball to date in the front office is male dominated and a white male dominated. However, the engagement, and I say it's a smile industry because you're dealing with the public, and with
Mhm.
the public, a ticket holder could be from the average person, foot in the door, going to one game as a family, buying that discounted ticket, um, to the person who buys a season ticket or spends thousands upon thousands of dollars for a box seat or
Mhm.
the high price. So you can go from a Leaf to a Tesla. So it all correlates. So the a day in the life is building upon that level of experience. And so a lot of those things and opportunities I'm working in the EV space is organic, and thankfully
Mhm.
so. I know what it is to be a Black woman in a male dominated or white male dominated industry. So having something new sometimes isn't always something new. It's a fresh coat of paint on something familiar.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
a day in the life is have the wonderful opportunity to work on particular projects. One I am quite fond of is the Mid Atlantic Electrification Project. That is under the Department of Energy. So it's in 4 states or 4 areas or territories: West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland, and DC.
Mhm.
And the day in the life is right now, it's rolling up the sleeves and having at it because we're in year one.
Right. Okay.
And as you know, year one, you start off with that
It's
alignment and
critical.
that implementation. It is critical.
Right. It is critical.
And the one thing that I'm very proud about with EV Noir has the multifaceted landscape approach or
Mhm.
approach, meaning you surveys, key informant interviews, just because I work with a wonderful host of colleagues, yourself included at the helm,
Okay, good.
Terry Travis included, wonderful colleagues, not leaning on the laurels of skill set or not leaning
Mhm.
on the laurels of education, because you need to know what's going on a granular level. And within this particular project,
Mhm.
I'm quite fond of it because you have urban, rural, you have various levels of what we call BIPOC communities or
Mhm.
underserved communities. Underserved in West Virginia looks different than underserved in DC.
Right.
Underserved in or indigenous for that matter.
Mhm.
Not all shades of brown and black look the same, especially in these areas. So, working with Mid Atlantic, we're looking with the Clean Cities coalitions in each of those states. That engagement has to be different. And the opportunity to do landscape analysis
Mhm.
in year one is key and critical, and it's giving us wonderful data for not only year one, but to also implement
Mhm.
change in these areas. We can't wait on, and you know, um, government to push the needle. The beauty of this project, it can be again on a granular level with data and implementation. So the findings that we bring back to our project partners can then correlate to potential charging stations and not
Right.
waiting on year 2030. Charging stations in areas that need it more immediate, and
Mhm.
the opportunity to educate and gain feedback. So that's just one. The
Right.
day in the
Right.
life is, like any other position, you do phone calls and emails. And I'm big on
Right.
relationships, very big, because if I know what it feels like to be the only one in the room.
Right. And I think
And
when it, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying the only one in the room or
Mhm.
want to have a voice. And how do you go about doing that? And how do you go about implementing change? You know,
No.
that's some of the things that we still work through, even within projects.
Right. And I was going to say, I know, you were talking about the landscape approach, and we're getting a lot of granular information that's helping to inform us our strategy and help us refine the strategy. And it's really a wonderful opportunity when you mention, you're building relationships and you're able to, take that experience that you learned from those other roles, from sports, from
Mm-hmm.
management, et cetera, from marketing and communications.
And even my alma
And
mater.
exactly, you're building relationships, building trust, and you're opening doors for people from all different backgrounds so that they have access to this information as well as to the resources and the technology. And and a great example is the K through 12 STEM program. So I know that
Absolutely.
you recently partnered with Morgan State University, their Center for Transportation, and they have a really exciting program that they do with young people there. And,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a role in facilitating just a small piece of that project. And so I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about that K through 12 STEM program and just some of the things that, we're intentional in doing and how that partnership worked with the university.
Sure, absolutely. So, the National Summer Transportation Institute is a program that is free, mind you, free to students middle school age to high school, and it has that escalator approach. So, the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of this project and also opportunities with AV Noir is not only education, but it's an opportunity for economic development. Transit, how goes transit, how goes economics? So, with the National Summer Transportation Institute at Morgan State, even just this past July, did an event with some wonderfully engaged students and giving information, but not only that, listening and gaining
Mm-hmm.
feedback and pairing current EV owners with students. For example, not only EV Noir is a wonderful company, but their nonprofit sector, meaning EV Hybrid Noir, has members who not only look like you, talk like you, maybe don't, from various regions who drive EVs or not, or EV friendly. We had the opportunity to pull two drivers who were students a high
Mhm.
school student, a college student. So these Morgan State National Summer Transportation students could actually ask questions.
Yeah,
So
so
yes,
relatable. That's so
very
relatable to have
relatable.
your peer like teaching you about the experience.
And could my first car be an EV? Well,
Mhm.
yes, it can. So again, from Leaf to
Absolutely.
Tesla, the opportunities are endless, and the benefits of being in this lane in this life
Mhm.
are tremendous. And that was just one event within this project. I can go on and on about the other events, but the beauty of, again, things that are just organic mesh is having the opportunity to work with my alma mater. And I thank them tremendously because they already have a wonderful Department of Energy funded programs. And then the National Summer Transportation Institute is free to students. All they have to do is sign up and just check the criteria and have wonderful programming. And I'm very proud to be a part of that within that program.
Awesome. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a number of parents watching out there. The program took place virtually last summer.
Mm-hmm.
So make a note of this so that you can stay tuned and reach out
Oh,
to
sign
them
up
for this
now.
coming
Do it
summer.
soon and early. Yeah, for
Yes,
those who
yes.
are in the Maryland area, please sign up early. It's I think it's a valuable resource,
Mhm.
and I learned just as hopefully they've learned as well.
Right. And one of the things I think that's beautiful about the K through 12 STEM program that we facilitate, as well as the uh, membership organization EV Hybrid Noir, is that not only are we educating more communities, particularly diverse communities, about this technology and the paradigm shift in transportation, we're also creating a space for workforce and economic development opportunities.
Absolutely.
We know that minorities, particularly African American and Latinx members, are have the smallest percentage of engineers working in the STEM and science fields. And so we want to make sure that we're exposing them to people who work in the space, who also may be driving the electric vehicles as
Mm-hmm.
well, or using multimodal electric transportation, and show them that, hey, there are people that look like you, that live in your communities, may have similar backgrounds, who have careers in this space, and they're exciting careers. So they're things
Yeah.
that, people with all different interests, there's a space for you out there. And so it's just a really, really exciting time to be in the space with everything that's happening at the federal level, the investment. It's really a
Absolutely.
transformational time. So that kind of leads me into my next question that centers around just, the energy, the policies that are evolving and being proposed and implemented in the space currently. So, this is like a thought-provoking question.
Mm-hmm.
So, just based on recent developments around the federal electrification program, the infrastructure bill that just passed last month in November, and obviously you're leading and working on efforts that incorporate infrastructure deployment. What do you think are the implications of this new wave of transformational funding? How is that going to impact your work? How is that exciting to you? Like, what are your takeaways from all of this transformation that's happening in the space?
It's exciting, it's thought provoking, it's inspirational, aspiring, all of
Mhm.
those things personally. And I say those things because even though, for example, these articles, these bills just recently came out, uh, we as Black and Brown communities don't have to wait to push the needle. So
Mhm.
those things that have been implemented, for example, 50% of the EVs, or excuse me, 50% of vehicles being EVs by 2030. I don't want to wait till 2030 to breathe better air. I
Right.
don't want to wait until uh, even 2 or 3 years from now for change to be implemented. So again, that's why I'm very proud working with and for EV Noir, not only on the Mid Atlantic project, but other projects as well, because you can implement change, and education and engagement is also implementing change. Um, One thing is encouraging that there are bills in place that
Mhm.
you know progress is coming, and these projects can help expedite the need in areas that can exceed that 2030 quote unquote deadline, reduced emissions or net zero carbonation by 2050, I'm gonna be, a little old come 2050. I would like to implement change
I know,
sooner
like
than
in the
that.
20s, so that we
Right.
get to enjoy it.
I would like to enjoy some things.
Right.
So 500,000 EV stations for short trips and long distances. I think that's amazing. But with the electrification project, the Mid Atlantic, or even another project that we're on that has workforce charging infrastructures deployment in the Virginia area. You mentioned another project, so working with a major utility company, having workplace charging systems that can be implemented now. Having those rebates,
Yes.
we don't have to wait until we're old and gray and feeble, and having someone else drive
Absolutely.
us or float us, for that matter. By then, those things can happen now, and that's the beauty of doing a lot of these projects. We can implement change. However, having that 50-30, 50% EVs on the road by 2030, I think that's amazing.
It
Uh,
is. It
it
is.
if something is on the books, that means let's work towards that. And how can we
Right.
progress in an efficient and manner? Because the benefits are employment.
Mhm.
Those charging stations need someone to have maintenance.
Right.
So
Right.
those K through
The
12
12
and
STEM kids that we're working
those
with,
those same STEM kids can
plug
work
them
with the
in.
IBEWs, who are project partners. Those are
Absolutely.
areas of free training. They can work with uh, the vehicle companies directly. There's so
Mhm.
many things that you can do in the EV space that you don't have to be an engineer. I'm not an
Right.
engineer. That
Right.
you can
And
still
neither am
produce.
I.
It can still be lucrative career. You can still have that feel good opportunity that you're helping. And then again, the words I want to put out there are
Mhm.
employment, air quality, and economics.
Yes.
Those
Public health.
public health.
Yes.
I like breathing.
Exactly.
I like breathing good air.
Breathing good air
I don't
without a respirator or without assistance.
without assistance. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, our underserved communities are within areas that aren't, I would say, breathable.
Right.
It's unacceptable.
Right.
And the fact that it's unacceptable that Black and Brown children have to have asthma issues.
Right.
That's
Right.
unacceptable. And if we can do something about it now, let's go.
Yeah, for the last several years, one of the things that I've been saying is that electrification is an opportunity to really have a significant impact on public health, particularly for vulnerable communities. When you think about 70% of African Americans are living in communities that are overexposed or disproportionately exposed to transportation emissions, that is crazy. So like
Crazy.
I'm super excited that the current administration is being intentional in terms of really prioritizing certain communities, frontline communities, communities that have been overexposed to air pollution. So whether it's native and tribal communities,
Hmm.
rural communities, or African American and Latinx communities, there's a space for them. There's intentionality. However, we have to make sure that we are engaging those communities and the different key stakeholders so that they can really make sure that we're not creating greater inequities in those communities.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's definitely something that you're well aware that we're doing that with EV Noir.
Absolutely.
And, EV Hybrid Noir has jumped right in there, advocating for equitable e-mobility solutions, whether they're working with
Hmm.
the Department of Energy or the EPA or others. They're really making sure that the voice of the community is really front and center. So, we say we use a human-centered approach to facilitate our work. That is truly, the mission and the vision that we're living. So before we wrap up, I have one other question before we close. And so, making this full circle and coming back to the workforce and economic development perspective, what advice would you offer young people who are interested in working in the e-mobility and clean transportation sector? So, like, if you had to give them, two key pieces of advice, like, what would those two things be?
Change can happen sooner than you think,
Hmm. Okay,
yourself
that's a good one.
included. And change can cause progress.
Hmm.
So, not only change within yourself, this e mobility space can elevate your economics, it can elevate your health, it
Hmm.
can elevate your community. And it's an opportunity. It may seem uh, on a grand philosophy, it can help leave a legacy. So it can leave the space, it can leave your world. Your world could be a 4 block radius, but it can leave your world better than it once was while you're currently in it.
Hmm.
So I would say just look and learn. Everything's new in this space at one point in
Hmm.
time. And your day one is, it could be at any time. So my day one was
I love
about
that.
7 years ago, and
Hmm.
that's not a long time. And I'm still learning, and it's exciting, and it's fun.
It is.
And
It really
it
is.
can, and it makes me feel good.
Hmm.
So it is. It pairs all of those things. So I would say, just look, learn, and ask some questions
Hmm.
because it's all
Hmm.
new. But
Right.
jump over to the space. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's fun
love
to
that.
breathe. It's fun to collect a check and feel good, and leave your world. It doesn't matter if your world is a 4 block radius or if you're a world
Mhm.
traveler. It leaves your particular world better.
That's beautiful. I love that the change can elevate your community. I love the the feedback or suggestion that you shared in terms of creating a legacy and leaving the world a better place, but you still get to experience that better place.
Yeah,
And your day one can be anytime. It's a matter of like jumping in because this is a newer space. It's in the nascent stages of growth, and so there's an opportunity really to get in at the ground floor and just
absolutely.
kind of accelerate, whether it's your career path or other opportunities. It's really a great time to just explore career paths in this
Absolutely. And
space.
there's money out there. There's laws on the books now.
Mhm. That is right. Well, that is exciting. I mean, it sounds like you have found your niche, you found your place and your passion, and you're able to live that every day. And I know on our end, we certainly appreciate everything that you're contributing to the project, and we're really excited to see just where year 2 and 3 of the project goes with everything that's happening in the ecosystem. And we know that 2022 is going to be a really huge year in terms of infrastructure, as well as workforce and economic development opportunities, and just increasing awareness overall. And so I really appreciate you being here with us this evening. And unfortunately, our time together has come to an end. But I just want to, of course, thank you, Danielle, for taking time with us and our viewers to just share your experiences as well as some words of wisdom. So, again, she is Danielle Cherry Hoover. She's a project manager with EV Noir. We want to thank our viewers for tuning in, and we also want to thank Ford for supporting this series. So please check out our other sessions as well. So additionally, if you want to learn more about the role of women in this sector, along with other emerging e-mobility issues and trends, ranging from the roles of utilities and more, make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn, EV Noir, EV Hybrid Noir, and make sure you stay tuned for our annual conference that comes up every November or every fall. So look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you for tuning in. Take care.